Well, I like the idea of playing a character who doesn't have a firm relationship with the truth. And I like the idea of someone who's very good at reading other people and knew how to use their any like kind of subconscious biases that they might have against them. She's very manipulative, and I really enjoyed that.
And she has one of the great introduction scenes. I thought,
I thought so.
her first appearance, even if you hadn't been interested in working with Chris Nolan or being in a Batman movie, if you read that scene in a script you were sent, you'd be like, oh, this is cool.
Who is this girl? And I was very interested in both of those two things that you mentioned, so yeah.
Yeah.
So welcome to the 8th episode of our special side series dedicated to my favourite superhero, Batman. I'm Stephen Nicholson, and I'm delighted to be joined today by my friend Paul Melon. And over the course of 10 shows, we're rewatching, critiquing and ranking all the Batman movies up to 2022's The Batman. So in the previous show, we discussed Christopher Nolan's classic Batman thriller, The Dark Knight. Today, we return to Gotham for Nolan's divisive third and final entry in the Dark Knight Trilogy, Dark Knight Rises.
There's a storm coming.
You sound like you're looking forward to it.
I'm adaptable.
I won't bury you. I've buried enough members of the Wayne family.
You don't owe these people anymore. You've given them everything.
Not everything. Not yet.
I really enjoy the theatrical experience for films, and so I encourage people to try and see the film on as big a screen as possible. The biggest screens in the world are the IMAX film screens. We're on about 100 of those worldwide, and because we shot almost half the film using IMAX cameras on their dedicated film format, that presentation of the film is extremely special. Anybody who has the opportunity to seek it out, I would strongly encourage them to do so.
The centre of his filmmaking, whether you like Dark Knight Rises or not, and it will divide opinion, whether you like it or not, it's a film made by someone who thinks you're as smart as he is. And that is to be championed. It's also a film made by somebody who loves cinema. He does. He evidently loves cinema, and he loves the way that cinema deals with memory and dreams and time and space and spectacle and story and narrative all at the same time, and all without making you feel that it's doing all that.
Dark Knight Rises was released in 2012 and directed by Christopher Nolan. And the plot for it, it's been 8 years since Batman, Christian Bale, in collusion with Commissioner Gordon, Gary Oldman, vanished into the night. So, assuming responsibility for the death of Harvey Dent, Batman's sacrificed everything for what he and Gordon hoped would be the greater good. However, the arrival of a cunning cat burglar, Catwoman, played by Anna Hathaway, and a merciless terrorist named Bane, Tom Hardy, forced Batman out of exile into a battle he may not be able to win. So The Dark Knight Rises grossed over $1.1 billion worldwide on a budget of $250 million. So it made over 4 times its budget, and it was the third highest grossing movie of 2012 behind the James Bond movies Skyfall and Marvel's The Avengers. Ratings wise, it's got an 87% fresh Rotten Tomatoes score and a 90% Rotten Tomatoes audience score. On IMDb, it's got a 78 out of 100 critic metascore and an 8.4 out of 10 audience rating. And here's a Dark Knight Rises fact for you. So Tom Hardy, standing at 5'9", had to wear 3-inch lifts to make his character Bane appear as tall or taller than co-stars Christian Bale, Morgan Freeman and Sir Michael Caine. And in summary, The Dark Knight Rises is an ambitious, thoughtful and potent action film that concludes Christopher Nolan's franchise in spectacular fashion. Well, did it end in spectacular fashion for you, Paul? So do you remember when and where you've first seen the movie, and what did you think of it?
Yeah, I saw it when it was first released in the cinema. I was looking forward to it because The Dark Knight obviously is a stone cold classic. So I was very interested to see how this one would turn out because I had a lot to live up to. And I have to say, at the end, I thought, that was okay, but I didn't think it was as good as I thought it would be. I think it was, again, because there's a problem with some sequels. You have the film previous to it was a huge hit. Then the next one's got a lot to live up to, and I don't think it lived up to the expectations, for me at least. It was good, don't get me wrong, but if it was a film on its own, it would be brilliant. But when you compare it to The Dark Knight and Batman Begins, yeah, it was good, but not as good as I was hoping it would be.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. Do I think it's as strong as Batman Begins and The Dark Knight? No. Do I think it's an awful conclusion to the trilogy, as a lot of fans have complained about, even, 12, 13 years later? No, I think it's still a hugely entertaining, big screen adventure with lots to admire and enjoy, albeit there are some flaws which I'm sure we'll talk about today. So what was your, and I think I was lucky enough, Paul, to see it in IMAX, I think, back in 2012, if memory serves. So yeah, I remember enjoying the experience. Christopher Nolan's, he makes movies made for the IMAX format, and this one didn't disappoint. So what was your favourite scene in the movie, and why? And was there a particular moment that resonated with you?
It's probably two scenes. I think the opening was pretty spectacular, because one of the great things about Christopher Nolan is he doesn't want to rely on CGI. He likes to keep it real, and that was a superb opening.
No one cared who I was till I put on the mask.
If I pull that off, will you die?
It would be extremely painful.
You're a big guy.
For you.
I liked the ending where Bruce Wayne and Alfred are sitting in that cafe, and Alfred just looks up at him, and they just give a knowing nod between the two of them, and then that's it. And you see Catwoman sitting next to Bruce Wayne, which is a bit of a twist.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think those are the two outstanding scenes that I can remember from the film. I thought, overall, yes, there was other scenes as well, of course, but I think it was with Bane, I had real trouble understanding what he was saying a lot of the time.
What are you saying? I sound like I'm underwater.
Yeah, and it's just, that was one of the most annoying aspects of the film. We've seen it in other films as well, like Tenet, so it's really hard a lot of time to understand what they're saying. I don't mind realism, but at least let us hear what they're talking about. So
it is helpful.
Yeah, especially in a script.
Well, exactly. Well, we'll come back to Bane in a moment, but I think for me the couple of scenes stand out. One is that whole ending sequence, and we'll talk about the ending and what we kind of think of it as obviously the ending of the trilogy. I love the ending sequence, the different scenes, the montage, and we'll talk about that later. But the other one which I really liked is when Batman comes back for the first time. And this is where Christopher Nolan, you've got to love him for that he wants to do things practically. And it's where the police go after Batman, and there's God knows how many police cars chasing him. And, they're real. You've got all these police cars, you've got news helicopters, police helicopters following him, and they then corner him. And the character, the police guy, Matthew Modine, plays like a rat in a trap, gentlemen. And then, was it called? The Bat? I think it was just called Bat. Batman's plane, if you like, in this starts up, and the police officer, I think you got the wrong animal there, sir. And off he goes.
Like a rat in a trap, gentlemen.
And that is brilliant. Then, yeah, he joins up Catwoman, has the fight, and then they both drive off, and yeah, brilliant stuff. Absolutely brilliant. So yeah, let's return to Bane then. What are your thoughts on him as a villain, and how does he compare to previous antagonists in the trilogy, like Ra's al Ghul and the Joker and Two-Face?
I think he's a good villain. He's nasty enough to be a good villain, but I think it's sort of balanced out as well. He's not always bad. I think compared to other villains, yeah, I mean the Joker was the peak. I think absolutely the peak, followed by Two-Face. I think Bane comes after that. I think, yeah, he was sinister enough with the mask on and the voice as well. But I wish his voice was a bit clearer so I could hear what he's saying.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah.
I know.
I think that's the disappointing aspect, because he would have been a better villain if you could understand what he was saying all the time, given that he was the main character. I was disappointed in that aspect, but I think in terms of villains, I think he's one of the better ones.
How did Tom Hardy do the Bane voice?
I found a character, a man called Bartley Gorman, who's a Romany gypsy, and the king of the gypsies in inverted commas, and a bare knuckle fighter, and a boxer. And he said, "When I get into a ring with a man, and all he wants to wipe me off the face of the earth, and all he wants to kill me." And I was like, "Oh, this is great." And then I showed Chris. I said, "Chris, we can either go down a sort of arch Darth Vader kind of route, and straight, just neutral toned villain voice, or we could try this." And this I've been thinking of, just in case we've got to consider the roots and origins of the Bane, but we could get laughed out of the park with it. It might be something that we regret, but it's your choice ultimately. And he goes, "No, I think we'll go with it." And that was that. And
wow.
We played with it and made it a bit more florid, and now people laugh at it.
I thought it was good, but you obviously had the Joker in the previous one. I thought it was good that this time round they actually gave Batman somebody who is equal or better when it comes to strength, physicality, fighting skills, and so on. So it gave him something new to contend with, which he hadn't faced before. Because it would have been very easy to have had another Joker-like character, the Riddler or somebody like that. But I thought it was wise to go with somebody. And the thing is with Bane, he's not just this physically imposing person. He's also an incredibly intelligent person as well, which makes him even more intimidating. He's not stupid. He's very intelligent. He's got the strength. He's got the desire to do something. So yeah, I actually really liked Bane, with the exception of at times not being able to really understand what he was saying. And how do you feel about Bruce Wayne's journey in this film? So do you think his character development was satisfying? Because I know one of the biggest complaints about this movie at the time from fans, and still now, is they really dislike the fact that after the events of The Dark Knight, that basically Batman retired. And this is, 8 years after, something like that. So he's basically retired because he's heartbroken about losing Rachel in the previous movie, and I think physically as well. Obviously he's recovering from injuries sustained in The Dark Knight, and a lot of people just did not like that Batman would have just gone. I mean, what are your thoughts on, if you like, Bruce Wayne and Batman's journey from the end of The Dark Knight to the end of this movie?
Well, what the fans seem to forget is he's human. He's not a robot, and he lost his best friend, and with everything else with the Joker, all the psychological stuff as well, it's going to have an impact on him. He's fighting crime all the time and getting injured all the time or whatever. So I think it was fair enough that he took time out, I suppose, between the time of The Dark Knight and then The Dark Knight Rises, just to recover. And also he's on the run, wasn't he? Effectively because he was taking the blame for Harvey Dent's death. And he took the fall for that.
Mm-hmm.
Just to protect Gotham. But nobody could find out about it. Otherwise, he'd be in jail. So I don't see what the issue is. I think it was right that he went hiding, basically, for a period of time. But then when things started kicking off again with Bane and Catwoman, then obviously he felt he had to come back to try and do something about it. So, yeah, I think it was fine. Because he's not a superhero like Superman. He's still a human being, albeit with all these fancy gadgets and a costume.
And that's the problem. You hung up your cape and your cowl, but you didn't move on. You never went to find a life, to find someone.
Alfred, I did find someone.
I know, and you lost them, but that's all part of living, sir. But you're not living. You're just waiting, hoping for things to go bad again. Remember when you left Gotham? Before all this, before Batman, you were gone 7 years. 7 years I waited, hoping that you wouldn't come back.
Yeah. Do you know what I think would have made it maybe a bit more palatable to a lot of people is he hadn't hung up the cape immediately after the events of The Dark Knight, and he was still going out there for a period of time afterwards. As, really now a criminal that everybody's hunting. And I think that would have been maybe a bit more palatable to people. And then he's basically from injuries and just lost his desire because of what's happened. I think that would have been a bit more palatable to people. But I mean, in terms of plotting and such like, it makes a lot of sense. You're going into the final movie. This guy's at a very low ebb, both mentally and physically, and he's thinking, I've got my mojo back here, I need to come back as Batman, and he's not who he used to be physically, mentally, and and he's older, he's 8 years older, and I suppose it's that then journey that he's then truly goes to the rock bottom, literally, thrown down the well, and it's all about him, it's the eye of the tiger, isn't it? To quote Rocky 3, it's getting his eye of the tiger back, coming back for the big triumphant final act where he's going to win. So, yeah, from a story perspective, you can see what they were trying to do there. And, yeah, and obviously, I think his journey in the end was satisfying. He can't be Batman forever. And I want to see Bruce Wayne ride off into the sunset happy after having pretty much a very unhappy life. So, yeah, great. Very happy with that. And the film explores kind of complex moral issues. How did you feel about the portrayal of Gotham's struggle and the choices made by its characters? Because Gotham is very much viewed in this film as very much almost a living entity that's under lock and key. It's been taken over by Bane and his cronies for the bulk of this movie there. So yeah, what did you think about Gotham's struggle and the choices made by its characters?
I think it's like anything, if you're faced with a choice, it's because of circumstances. It's not necessarily good, bad, black or white. It's more nuanced than that. So the good guys have to do things that are bad, just to combat the bad guys. I think it's more realistic, more true to life that way, because outside films, a lot of things are not so clear cut. You do have to make choices that you may have to make decisions that you would never make in normal circumstances. And I think that's the same with Gotham, because it was riddled with crime, taken over by Bane and all his mates. What can the police do when the society is so rotten, so corrupt? How do they combat that?
There's a man locked up for 8 years in Blackgate and denied parole under the Dent Act based on a lie.
Gotham needed a hero.
It needs it now more than ever. You betrayed everything you stood for.
What's the point? Far out there, when the structures fail you, when the rules aren't weapons anymore, where they're shackles, letting the bad guy get in here. One day, you may face such a moment of crisis, and in that moment, I hope you have a friend like I did. To plunge their hands into the filth so that you can keep yours clean.
Your hands look plenty filthy to me, Commissioner.
And it was the same in the other films, Dark Knight. I mean, Batman was officially a vigilante and was to be arrested on sight. But the police looked the other way when he was beating up all the bad guys and cleaning up the streets outside the law. He was doing things that the police could never do. And that was a choice that the police made in The Dark Knight. So they're still making the same kinds of choices in this film. Not necessarily legal, but necessary because of the situation that they were faced with.
I mean, I was thinking about this earlier on today, and I think The Dark Knight, I feel like, was the undercurrent or its influence. The theme was maybe terrorism. Joker is a terrorist, and he's hard to pin down. He's unpredictable and striking fear into everybody. And I think this movie, Dark Knight Rises, was very much influenced by the financial crash in 2008, and very much the haves and the have-nots, 1%, and the 99% rising up against that. And it's actually, you can see a lot of comparisons to real life of what's happened in America with politics and Trump and so on, how people can get easily influenced by their worst impulses to do things perhaps or make decisions that they perhaps would not have done previously or rationally. And then we see that Bane's basically convinced them to take over Gotham and live under his rule, but actually he's not got their best intentions at heart. He basically is going to blow up the city. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah, it's obviously what people will do when provoked or encouraged, and how their moral compass can change so dramatically in extreme circumstances. So I thought it was quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about politics and things like that. Like, there's parallels today when people have had enough of the so-called mainstream politicians who over the years have given us all the honeyed words about freedom and trade and everything else. And yet, too many people see their jobs go abroad and nothing comes in. And then they see bankers get away with the financial crisis whilst they bear the brunt. And all the politicians saying, yeah, it's fine, don't worry about it, everything will be fine. And it's not fine. So then they turn to someone who says, I'll make your life better. Now, although they won't make their lives better, doesn't make their rich mates better off. And that's what we're seeing now, unfortunately. And yeah, you see the parallels in that film. I mean, that's 2012 it was made or released. Still seeing those parallels today.
It's there is a bit in the movie where Bane goes into the Gotham Stock Exchange, and one of the stockbrokers goes, who's actually Glenn Powell. Just when I was rewatching, I'm like, it's Glenn Powell, who's now very famous. He's in the likes of Twisters and so on. So I was like, Glenn Powell's in this, but he says to Bane, we don't have any cash here. There's no money. And Bane's like, then why are you here? Although a bit more intimidating than me. Why are you people here? Which is quite good.
It's a stock exchange. There's no money you can steal.
Really? And why are you people here?
Anyway, on a more light-hearted note, so Hans Zimmer composed the score for the film, and guess what I have right here? This is the, if you're just listening to this, it's no good, but you're on video, you can see it. So this is the Dark Knight Rises double soundtrack album. I think it's on grey or silver. Oh no, silver and black marble vinyl. I'm obviously saying that I really enjoy the soundtrack. How do you think the music influenced the tone and emotion of the movie, and what do you think of the soundtrack overall?
Do you know, I don't actually remember the soundtrack all that well. I have the soundtrack for The Dark Knight because that was just superb. But I must confess, I didn't get the one for The Dark Knight Rises. So, yeah. But if it's Hans Zimmer, it's going to be good. So, I'm guessing the same style as The Dark Knight.
Very much, yeah. A lot of
pulsing bass and with the orchestra and everything.
a lot of the recurring kind of themes and motifs from the previous two movies, but there is some new stuff in here which is really good. So obviously the theme for Bane, which is really good, and I know Hans Zimmer plays that one a lot in concert. Really the drums, very percussive. And that's a really good new theme. Catwoman, Selina Kyle's theme is really good as well. And this is where I think musicians are very clever. They know what they're doing, where just the way it's constructed and the instruments, it sounds like a cat, just so that's a nice new theme as well. And I think just bringing back some of the other themes from the previous two movies and bringing them back really strongly, including the music he does for the final sequence, where we have that montage. The music in that is fantastic, and I think it certainly leans you towards thinking that Batman, Bruce Wayne, is actually dead. And then, of course, we've been tricked, and actually he is not. But yeah, no, it's a really, really, really good soundtrack, yeah. And I kind of mentioned Catwoman there, but how did you feel about the role of Selina Kyle in this movie? Did she add to the story effectively for you?
I'm not sure what she brought to the film. I mean, it was so memorable that I've forgotten her part, apart from the end. I don't recall her doing anything major in the film.
Oh, she does drive the plot along a fair bit, in that she steals the Bruce Wayne's fingerprint at the beginning and so on. So she is one of the main plot drivers. And I mean, for you, how does she compare to the other two in a more modern Batman movie, Catwoman? So we've got Michelle Pfeiffer and Zoe Kravitz, and obviously Anne Hathaway.
I wouldn't know because I've never seen Michelle Pfeiffer and Anne Kravitz in the other Batman films.
Really? Wow.
From the older ones, I've just seen Batman, the Michael Keaton,
right,
Jack Nicholson. I haven't seen the ones after that. The other ones I've seen after that are the trilogy, the Dark Knight trilogy.
That's actually pretty hard to do, to have avoided all those movies. That's quite impressive.
Well, I heard they were rubbish, so yeah. And at that time, there was no streaming. It was had to get DVDs and all that stuff. Yeah. So I didn't see them in the cinema.
Right, okay.
But I got a soundtrack for Batman and Robin. It was the one with U2. Was that the one? Or was that
Batman Forever?
Batman Forever, yeah, thanks. Yeah, one with Seal as well.
Mm-hmm.
Kiss from a Rose. Yeah. I remember that. But yeah, I didn't see the other ones. I didn't see the one with George Clooney in it, or Val Kilmer or anything like that.
Well, I will say, I think Selina Kyle in this movie does give the film a couple of its best moments, one of which always just makes me laugh, when she goes to hand over the fingerprint, and in return she's going to be getting this disc or something which is going to wipe away her criminal record, and it all goes pear-shaped, and there's a gunfight, and she's quite calm and cool and fighting and everything. Then the police arrive, and she then just suddenly goes into victim mode, pretend like she's just this woman that's just been there, caught up in it, and then she kind of walks out, and suddenly she's fighting again, and it's brilliant. Always makes me laugh.
Some pressure on that, sweetheart.
Call me?
She's bleeding.
But no, I think she's really strong in this movie, and she does have some really good moments in it. Although the bit that I always find amusing is she looks to leave Gotham City, so she's gone to the airport, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character goes to get her, and it's maybe Gotham City Airport, but it's actually, I'm sure, Stansted or Luton Airport down in England, which, again, always gives me a chuckle there. And how do you feel about the film's conclusion? Do you think it provided a fitting end to the trilogy?
I do, yes. I do. I think a lot of fans probably expect a trilogy like that to go down in a blaze of glory, some kind of big battle and everything blows up or whatever. I think it's like, remember Game of Thrones, a lot of people complain about the ending of that, but I was thinking, what do you expect? A big massacre at the end just to finish it off or what?
Mm-hmm.
And I think with a lot of films and TV series like this, with a lot of action and things like that, people expect a big ending, a big bang, or big gunfight and everyone dies or whatever. But I think with films like that, a denouement like that is far better. I think it's far more realistic. That's the war's over, the battle's over, everyone goes home or disappears. So I think it's like Lord of the Rings. The denouement at the end of Return of the King. It's like 40 minutes of just winding down.
Endings.
Yeah. Just winding down everything. And I think that was the perfect ending for that trilogy. I think the ending of The Dark Knight Rises was the perfect ending as well. Just a knowing nod between Alfred and Bruce Wayne. And then that's it. Great.
I loved the ending. Absolutely loved the ending. I love the rug pull, with, as I said already, where they made you think, oh my God, he's dead. And they're kind of showing the montage with the statue unveiled of the Batman and the funeral for Bruce and all this kind of stuff. And then just the little clues that are showing, no, he's not. He's not. And yeah, I loved it. And obviously we get Robin, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, potentially taking over the Batman mantle, which again I know was another contentious point from people, which is featured at the end. Didn't mind that at all. This is its own little universe, these three movies, and why not? But yeah, I love Bruce Wayne got to ride off into the sunset happy and without the baggage of his life that he's left behind. And also Alfred gets to go and enjoy his retirement now.
Exactly.
So everybody wins, Gotham probably gets a new Batman. Bruce Wayne and Alfred get to enjoy their lives, and the bad guys are dead.
Yeah, like the funeral and everything else is probably a ruse. So you can get away in peace and quiet and just hide somewhere else.
Absolutely. Yeah.
With Catwoman.
Absolutely. I know it must have been a torturous decision for him to run off with Anne Hathaway. Yeah?
I know. Shocking, eh?
Must have been tough for him. But yeah, it was great.
Like trimming the movie fat, why not check out our other podcast, Trimming the Musical Fat?
So what would you rate this movie out of 5, Paul, and where would you rank it in terms of Batman movies? Although, being that you've only seen 4 of them, this might be hard for you. Would you rank it top, middle, or lower tier Batman?
Well, I heard the other Batman films were a bit poor after the first one, up till Batman Begins. So, yeah, I'll go by what I've heard. I think for this one, see, I'm kind of torn because I want to give it 4 out of 5. I don't think it's 5. I want to give it 4, but I just thought, it was just a bit meh. For all the hype and everything else, it was, yeah. So I'm going to give it 3.5.
And would you rank it top, middle, or lower tier, Bat?
I would say top tier compared to what went on before. Maybe the bottom of the top tier. Certainly the top of the middle sort of rank. But yeah, I'll say top of the middle.
Okay, well, for context, I gave Batman Begins and The Dark Knight 5 out of 5. They're 2 of my favourite movies of all time. I would give this, it's not as good, although it's still great, still really enjoy it. I would give this 4.5. Also, it does have its its flaws. 4.5, and yeah, similar to you, I would put it at the bottom of the top tier. But yeah, still a hugely enjoyable movie and a rousing send-off for Bale's Dark Knight.
So that's what that feels like.
So Christian Bale and Christopher Nolan have driven the tumbler off into the sunset, so time for a reboot. So enter Zack Snyder and his sequel to Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman. Another very divisive movie, so come back when we take a look at that. And Paul, may I suggest you watch that movie and then you can come back and tell me what you think about it.
I'll think about it.
Okay, and if you do, there's a theatrical version and a director's one. You definitely want to watch the director's one. It is superior, so you can have a wee think about that there. It's actually a film I really, really enjoy, but I am in the minority. I really enjoy it. But yeah, I'd love to hear what you think about Dark Knight Rises or Batman v Superman. So yeah, please get in touch and we'll read out your comments on one of the upcoming shows, and you'll find all our contact details in the show description. So we'll see you soon on the same Bat channel. Until then, keep trimming.
Trimming the Movie Fat is a Stephen and Paul Nicholson production. We'd love to hear from you. Contact us by voicemail via the Spotify link in the episode description. You can email us at trimmingthemusicfat@gmail.com. Keep up to date with the show and access exclusive content by joining our Facebook group, subscribing to our YouTube channel, and following us on TikTok. You can also check out our website at trimmingthemusicalfat.com. Thanks for listening.